So we're talking about the elements today, and I want to ask which element sign that you think that you are, and if you know what they mean. Because I do.
Question.
Let me give you a small breakdown before you answer the question here. Because I don't actually identify with my assigned element in life. So fire signs, which is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, are supposed to be like confident, passionate, adventurous, inherently like independent. Water signs like Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces tend to be natural empaths, intuitive, creative, and quite sentimental. Air signs are like Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. They tend to be witty, social, yet anxious, and free-spirited. And then earth signs, which are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, are more grounded and nurturing, level-headed and calm, and more practical thinkers. So keep in mind that these pieces can differ when you look at different aspects of a person. So for instance, it can determine your values. It can also determine like how you receive and give love or affection. And don't even get me started on your ruling planets, because that would be a million years to talk about what planet is in the microwave. So that's not what we're getting at here.
Ooh,
just general signs. Just general signs. So what sign do you think, like, what, do you identify with your element, or you guys, do you feel like you're different?
I don't know. You listed off things. I'm like, yeah, I'm that, and that, and that, and that.
Okay, so what is your sign, Adam?
Okay, guess. Because you're the queen of this shit.
Oh, okay.
When is your birthday again? It was June. No. Oh, God.
I'm not saying a word. You need to guess.
I'm not guessing. This is a bad game.
Yeah, okay. I'm a Gemini.
Okay, yes. All right. So Gemini tends to fall under air signs. So witty, social, yet anxious, and free-spirited.
I'm not sure that I'm free-spirited. I'm pretty fucking down to earth on shit. I
would say, like, because to me, you do feel more like a Taurus. Like, you would have that grounded, you're a little bit more nurturing, and you're kind of level-headed and calm. That's where I would put you. Yeah. So that's why you're more of an earth sign to me than you are an air sign.
Yeah, that tracks for me. I get that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I wonder what your rising and shit is, but you can talk to Elwyn about that. She's better at this than I
am. While this whole conversation was happening, I had to literally look up what sign am I? Because I'm thinking, I did this at one point, and apparently I'm an Aries, although I don't agree with that.
So Aries? Yeah.
I'm a bit of that. But I'm a bit of everything, like Adam said.
So fire signs, confident, passionate, adventurous, and inherently independent.
I don't know if I agree with that. I'm all of those things, but I'm not.
Well, hold on. Which one is it said empathetic?
That'd be water signs.
I was just thinking that's water.
Yeah. So you're kind of like the natural empath, intuitive, creative, and quite sentimental, like that kind of thing. Are you
Don't make me cry now.
Okay.
Stop it. Stop.
So
what are you?
Technically, I'm an air sign, being under Libra. So it's witty, social, yet anxious, and free-spirited.
Well, you're half right.
It's kind of halfway there. I like to think that I'm an earth sign, because I like to think that I'm a little more grounded than other people, but then that's just me overthinking it a little bit. So, which then I think puts me right back into being an air sign. So
you're not wrong.
But I would love to be like, and then there's also pieces of the water sign too, being a natural empath, intuitive, creative, like that kind of thing.
I would have said you are the freaking artist at the table. I
Yeah.
mean, Charlie as well, but at our D&D table, but like, yeah.
So would you agree that we're all just elemental turmoil?
100%.
Okay.
The elemental chaos.
But again, it also like is determined by your ruling planets, what your rising sign is, what all that kind of stuff is. So
what is a rising sign?
A sign that is a mechanical thing, so you push a button, it rises above the platform.
I said I'm not going to get into it. This is Elwyn's wheelhouse.
Is that like the first half, like the one you're closest to at the beginning? You know what? Someone come at me in the comments, because I could look this up, but I don't.
What you need to do is you need to call up Elwyn and then just have her do like an insert of what everything means, because I'm not doing that for you.
It'll be a 25-minute rant.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Are you sure 25 minutes or longer?
But
we have the ability to edit.
Yeah, but the funny part is she's an Aquarius, which is technically an air sign, which people find hilarious because Aquarius, you would think water, but it is not. It's actually an air sign. And again, witty, social, yet anxious, and free-spirited. I feel is very much her. But yeah, loud and obnoxious, though, isn't a quote in here, so I can't really.
That's the turmoil.
That's the turmoil.
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get.
Welcome to another It's a Mimic episode where we continue our conversation on lore in D&D 5th edition. I'm Adam, and with me today are Megan and Tyler, and this episode is called Traveling by Airplane, Fireplane, Earthplane, and Waterplane.
In this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, this panel of Dungeon Masters is going to take a quick tour through the inner planes, aka the elemental planes, aka the elemental chaos.
Before we jump into this, I want to ask you guys, based on the pulp culture we have of movies that use elementals, figures and whatnot, which element would you say that you are?
Based on the pop culture version of it, not the Zodiac version.
No, not the Zodiac.
Think Airbender.
Let's say, think Airbender, or think, what was it, the one that came out from Disney, Elementals, was it?
Oh, the elementals?
Yeah.
I'm Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Oh, so you're the fifth element
That's,
is what you're saying. Yeah. You're the perfect specimen and perfect human being.
I keep telling everybody.
Everyone should know.
I want you guys to know that, like, before this
look
episode...
at this figure. It definitely matches.
Oh, absolutely. It's the ginger in him.
it's the perfect Buddha body that I'm rocking right now. So, I actually sat down and looked up, like, I took a 20-question quiz about which element am I.
Oh my
that
God.
I just Googled, and it said I was fire.
Yeah.
And then I said that was racist because I'm a ginger.
Yeah.
And so I don't like any of it.
I think it matches.
Yeah, I think it fits.
Damn it. Let's roll initiative on the actual question.
Okay.
Nat 20, I gotta keep talking.
Oh!
Two Nat 20s.
Wow.
I'm sticking with a 13.
Okay, roll off.
All right. I got a 14.
I got a 6.
All right. So, I don't know. If I had to identify with any of them, I probably would have said Earth.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, and just because I don't know how to put it. Of all of the elements, that's the one that's always been my favorite. Mm-hmm. Anytime that it comes up, whether it's like, what are the 4 humors, what are the 4 elements, what are the 4 archetypes, like the basic, like what are the one of the 4, I usually end up on Earth, right? So
green also matches orange, so it's a very good color combination.
That and I'm saying this out loud right now because it's just occurring to me. My name literally means, the definition of Adam is of the red Earth.
Yeah.
So
no, I would say so. You are a very grounded person, and like you are definitely the dad of the group. Like, sorry about that, but you are. So
yeah, I mean,
Someone's
fucking feel it. Someone's got to make sure you guys get in by fucking curfew.
Never.
I'm not going to say I don't try.
I'm like that dad, and like you start listing off all the kids, and Megan, we love Megan.
My parents actually say, like, when they speak about their kids, like, I know that my parents always say along the lines of, and Megan, she's just still finding her way.
Oh no.
Constantly.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
It's because I didn't end up in like the classic 5 careers for women.
No, my mom told Mieko when she was when they first met that I really tried my best with Adam.
I can see your mom saying that.
Yeah.
I'll start saying that too, just to match. We're trying our best.
I think with me, if I had to identify pulp culture-wise with any element, it would also have to be water, just in the sense of just fluid motion, just going from one thing, go to the next. And I have to do that with kids. It's one thing, go to the next, go to the next.
Well,
okay.
You've got 190 children, though, right?
192.
Yeah.
I lost count, though.
Where every time we do the head count, it's like Home Alone. Yeah. It's like, I think we got them all, but I don't know the faces.
But where's Kevin?
Yeah.
We just assign them numbers, and then if it skips a number, we know something's wrong.
Yeah, that's fair. Just count by 2s.
The first 2 stand up, please. Okay, yeah. It's lunchtime. Oh, shoot, we missed the whole morning.
Yeah.
You play enough video games and watch enough anime, though, that you've got to have an opinion about which element you work more closely aligned with.
I would say fire, because I am inherently, naturally, people are afraid of me. And
Really?
I think it comes from my chaotic nature to a degree.
And also that I'm really pushing that narrative on the podcast.
Yeah, so, and I feel like I live up to it, though, to a degree. I'm very good at controlling my emotions until I'm not.
Yeah.
And then it's the Hail Mary after that, and good luck to everybody around me.
And look, the butterfly knife really helps with the image as well.
It really does. So. Yeah.
All right. Before we go any further into this, I think it's time for an info break.
We've previously covered quite a bit in our discussion on player options in 5th edition. For all of those episodes and more, you can follow or subscribe at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and dozens of other podcast apps. And if you'd like to support us, you can donate through the website, check out our store, or join our Patreon and get access to other episodes and series. If you'd like to pay for some ad space on It's Mimic, or just send a shout out to a friend, please reach out to us through our email and website that are listed in the show notes below.
This is the second episode to come out this week, which means that we don't have any announcements about what is coming later in the week. But I do want to take a moment to say we are getting pretty close to 1,000 YouTube subscribers, and we would absolutely love to be able to crack that number by the end of the summer. So, if you are listening on an audio platform, please take a couple of seconds to head over to YouTube and subscribe to us there as well. You can see all the visualizations that we put up for all of the episodes, and everything is in a nice cohesive playlist, but it's really going to help our engagement if you jump over there. So please and thank you. And if you're already listening to this on YouTube, then thank you so much. You are phenomenal. No homework for you. And let's get back to the episode. We're going to be talking about the inner planes, which are the elemental planes, and we're going to talk a lot about them in a minute. But first, we should probably talk about planar travel, because for all of the episodes that we've done on the planes, we haven't really gotten into the nitty-gritty of what it says in the DMG, and this is the last episode on the planes.
What?
So I think the only one that we haven't covered is the ethereal plane, and the ethereal plane is such a wet fart for me. Like I don't
I think it's
feel
an
the
accurate
need
description of it.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to talk about it. It's what Frodo sees when he puts the ring on, right? Like I don't need to dedicate an hour and a half to that conversation.
Now, you understand now that you said that, every time one of my characters enters into the ethereal plane with whatever spells,
It's going to sound like a wet fart.
It's also going to smell like a wet fart.
It's just that smell of rotten eggs. Anyway, so let's talk about planar travel for a moment. So, according to the DMG, there are many different kinds of portals. Some are simply magical doorways that lead from one plane to another. Others are grander locations that can flicker in and out of planes and exist in multiple planes at once, like a fairy circle or a wizard tower, a vehicle, or even entire towns can do this. Some portals are a crossroads where one plane bleeds into another, like the eye of a hurricane leading into the plane of air. Sometimes, traveling through a portal itself can be an adventure, and a lot of times, portals have guardians. There's some conditions that might have to be met in order for a portal to open as well. For example, it has to be the right time. That could be the right season, or it could be the exact right moment at the time of day, or it might be when the stars align in a specific way based on, the rotation of the plane that you're on. But there's a time factor. Or it could be like situational conditions that are met, like, for example, if a person from a specific bloodline bleeds in this general vicinity, or if 3 fae and a giant are all walking through this archway together, or something like that. Or maybe even like the clothes that you're wearing or an item you're holding. Or maybe it's a command word that's spoken. Or, like I just said with the item you're holding, an appropriate key that's used. And a key can be anything. A key can be a sword. A key can be a person. A key can be absolutely anything that you want. It is just the thing that the portal needs to unlock and open. And then finally, the last one that they offer, which is not helpful at all, is it could just be random happenstance that sometimes it opens and sometimes it doesn't.
You stepped in the wrong place.
Yeah, and
DM discretion.
The plot required. Yeah. So we're talking specifically about the inner planes today, and so keep that in mind when we talk about going in and out of the inner planes, because these are going to be portals that are based on the element themselves, right? That's going to be linked to it. Like, there are places of deep dark shadow that lead to the Shadowfell, or places of bright blooming life that lead to the Feywild, or places of incredible unspeakable chaotic evil that lead to the Abyss. But we're talking about the elemental planes. So you would have to think like a volcano or a fireplace would lead to the plane of fire, things like that.
Fall into a
Give it
volcano.
away.
So when we're talking about the inner planes, it's important to know how they fit within the Great Wheel cosmology. So there's the material plane, and that's where we play D&D, and then there's what's called the echoes. And the echoes are the Feywild and the Shadowfell, right? One is a negative and one is a positive. They're not the negative and positive planes. Those are different fucking things. But one is generally negative and one is generally positive when it comes to like emotions. And these are reflections of the world that we play in.
And general pigmentation.
Yes, that as well.
That's a given.
Yes.
The sun is here, you're in a cave.
It's whether or not the saturation is turned way up or way down.
Correct,
right?
yes.
So,
How much vitamin D are you getting?
None.
shout out hell it is. So there's also the ethereal plane, which kind of moves throughout each of them as well. And then we have the inner planes. And the inner planes, if you look at the Great Wheel, the inner planes form an inner circle around them. And it's just simply fire, air, earth, and water. And then beyond that, you have the outer planes, and we've dedicated a number of episodes to those, right?
Yeah.
So, and those are all kind of alignment based. But this is a metaphysical representation of the layout of the planes. It's not like it's a proper geographical map. The outer planes tend to have levels to each of them. The river Styx connects the evil planes. The infinite staircase connects the good planes, although it seems in 5th edition that it connects all the planes in potentially a multitude of different ways. And the Outlands exists as a large wild hub where all the outer planes have a permanent portal. And of course, there's the astral plane and other ill-defined planes that surround and permeate all of the planes. Another example beyond the astral plane would be like the plane of dreams, right? No matter what plane you're on, you can access the plane of dreams. So most planes are connected to all the other planes in one way or another. And you can even reach through the membrane of planar walls to communicate with or summon other creatures.
Did you have to call it the membrane?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Would you prefer a one membrane?
I don't know. I mean, yes. Vying for equality here.
There are better ways to do this.
This is not the hill you want to die on.
And so I've listed all these things, but it doesn't even include like how powerful gods and entities have avatars of themselves that use a modicum of the power of the gods or demigods themselves to walk on certain planes while they're anchored back in their initial planes, or the way that some warlocks have interplanar arcane connections to powerful creatures in other realms, or how some gods and aberrations exist in other dimensions and can only be partially conceived by mortals. I haven't even talked about the far realms. There's a lot going on with planar shit. And so the idea of inner planes is very much just how we draw the map.
Yeah.
And when you have something like, let's say, the plane of water is always oriented in a specific way, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's any closer to the alignments on the Great Wheel, right? Because in previous editions, this was just called the Great Elemental Chaos, and they would all kind of blend and bleed together, and it would shift and move. And so the point here is that the planes exist in fluctuating proximity to each other and with shifting connections and degrees of intensity. And only some creatures know how to traverse these pathways and portals with any sort of reliability. So, what are the inner planes? And if by now you don't know, then the simplest way to think about them is that they are the 4 elements that exist as locations that exemplify their general themes of the element itself. So, the parts that are closest to the material plane, quote unquote, are very similar to the main world, to the material plane itself. So if you were going to a city on the plane of water, for example, and it would, you can easily exist there, and maybe it's an island and there's breathable air on top of the water. That would be very similar to the material plane, so chances are stronger connections, it's quote-unquote closer to, right? Whereas if you go into just the deep ocean where there's nothing, not even life, no light, it's just pure dark water out there, then you're very, very far away from the material plane. There may not be portals out here. So the further you go in, the more indescribable and inhospitable the setting becomes. So it's also worth pointing out that each of the inner planes, which we call the elemental planes, each border on 2 of the other inner planes. They are a fraction of the size of the true elemental planes, but they do have a bizarre series of inhabitants that revel in the dichotomy of these smaller planes. So let me just give you an example here. First of all, fire and water don't mix, and earth and air don't mix. So air plus water gives us the Frostfell, which is the plane of ice. Water plus earth gives us the Swamp of Oblivion, which is the plane of ooze. Not to be confused with actual oozes, they come from the abyss. This is just things that are slimy and mucky.
It's one that's been named.
Yeah. It's swampy and mucky. Earth and fire gives us the Fountains of Creation, which is the plane of magma. And fire and air gives us my favorite name, the Great Conflagration, the plane of ash. So...
Oh my.
Magma.
Magma.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, We have 4 to cover today, but I think the one that everybody's waiting for first is the Plane of Fire, because it's probably the most popular and the most famous.
Everybody loves fire.
Everybody likes fire.
I don't.
Okay, well.
But don't hate. Or do. It's up to you.
The point is, go ahead and hate Tyler.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm used to it.
We'll agree.
He's weeping now. Plane of water, right?
So sensitive.
Yeah.
I told you guys, okay?
So, with the Plane of Fire, let me jump into it really quickly. And then we're going to roll initiative and go over the other ones, okay? So,
right.
First and foremost, fire is tied to vibrancy, passion, change, but also cruelty and destruction. It's tied to inspiration, compassion, and desire. Does that track with what we know about the Zodiac and shit too?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This is not a plane of muted feelings and subtle themes. At the highest point in the sky, the sun sits, never setting or rising. At noon, it's bright white and fills the plane with intense heat. At midnight, it's a deep red ball that casts everything in a crimson twilight. You can tell the passage of time based on the waxing and waning of the sun's intensity. So it's never truly dark. While the air here is breathable, the hot embers, hot gusts of winds, and ashy nature of the air will make most humanoids cover their mouths and eyes. And of course, the farther into the plane you travel, the more scarce water will become until there just isn't any, and flames will start to take over. There are a few noteworthy sites that we get in the DMG.
Oh, good.
The Cinder Wastes is the largest known part of the elemental plane of fire, dotted with ancient ruins from long-forgotten structures and peoples. It's mostly home to small azure outposts. Some people say Azer. It's
Azure.
It's Azure. Z for you Americans.
Zed.
ER. So they're just little dwarves with, instead of hair and beard, it's fire. So, and they're really good smiths. So anyway, these guys have some outposts there. There are roaming salamander marauders, not the little lizard guys, but the monster salamander. And of course, there's evil Ifrit as well. So Ifrit being the fire-based genies.
Thanks, all of Fantasy Realm, for giving us Ifrit.
Yeah. Now...
Oh, I'm sorry. Ifrit.
I always refer it to Ifrit.
Adam's about to have an aneurysm.
What pisses me off about it is that, like, you'd think that a group of Ifrit would be called an Ifriti, but it's the other way around. A singular is an Ifriti, and one is, and a group is the Ifrit.
And Ifrit, yeah.
Anyway. Now, moving on. On the map of the inner planes in the DMG, the plane of fire is a little confusing because there are 2 huge regions that are called the Fountains of Creation. This is really just one large, mountainous L-shaped region that can be separated into the plane of magma that borders on the plane of Earth, and the home of Azures, fire giants, and dragons, which is a little bit deeper and closer to, like, the true heart of just flame and fire.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of forges and settlements within both parts of the Fountains of Creation, but this massive mountain range spans all the way back into the uninhabitable fire purity of the plane of fire. So there may be greater treasures and weapons that most mortals simply can't even get to, and the time is forgotten there. The Sea of Fire isn't just an ocean of flames. It's an ever-boiling expanse of lava that is fed by volcanoes and drifts toward the plane of air, where it slowly becomes the great conflagration. Elemental fire creatures actually sail across the Sea of Fire in brass ships, exploring a wealth of obsidian islands that house old, failed settlements. But sailors have to beware because powerful red dragons love this area and rule the skies above. But standing like a gleaming beacon on the shores of the Sea of Fire is the most famous place in all of the elemental planes, which is the City of Brass. For like the first 100 episodes of this podcast, I got the City of Brass and Sigil, the City of Doors, confused. And so I am like on record as saying the wrong thing and swapping them.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, so so now that we're nearly episode 300, I am changing that, but this is the only time I'll ever admit it. So in the City of Brass, metal walls, beautiful spires, decadent and grandiose features full of movement and passion and cruelty give us the home of the Ifrit. It seems as if the whole city is reflecting dancing flames, and the alluring, vibrant city calls many adventurers in search of powerful magical items for a price. These Ifrit love negotiating favors, but the evil nature of them shouldn't be taken for granted. If you get an audience in the Charcoal Palace, you will run across the despotic sultan of the Ifrit, who sits upon his throne, surrounded by fire genies and their guards, guests, slaves, and sycophants. And that's all the information we get in 5th edition about the City of Brass. There's a lot of info online about it. There have been multiple adventures and modules in previous editions that have gone to the City of Brass, but it is where you go to make deals with evil genies to get the biggest or most powerful items or get your wishes granted for a price. Megan, you know I love to use hags for this shit.
We love a good hag.
This is also where you can go to make these tantalizing deals that the players may not be able to say no to.
Fair enough.
Ooh.
So, I have some questions. You guys want to roll initiative?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I got a 5.
I had a bigger number, but now it's a 2.
I'm on a 9. So I'm talking to myself even more. Okay.
Have fun.
What's one reason that you as a DM would bring your party to the Plane of Fire? And I mean, if I can be honest, it is for items. I just think that of all of them, this is the plane that really says, hey, we've got forges, we've got weapons, we've got red dragons and genies. Azures, there are fire giants here with their forges as well. You're going to find cool shit here.
Yeah.
So if you are sitting there going, I have a MacGuffin, I need to go somewhere intimidating and absolutely fucking weird, Plane of Fire.
Yeah. I was say if you need something like a magical item repaired.
Oh, that's a good point.
Or like
yeah.
or something along those lines, because you're going to find the best forgers there because of the fire giants. But I would also use this place as like a setting for potentially a giant versus dragon war.
Ooh.
And because, you know, it's full of ruins and like old castles and all that kind of stuff, right? Like I would want there to be some kind of a territorial war that your group gets pulled into.
It's interesting because, okay, you did giants for the longest time.
I did.
Right? So, it's interesting how frost giants and white dragons have kind of a relationship where they will, like, capture and enslave wormling white dragons and raise them to be guards almost and stuff. But there's almost nothing about red dragons and fire giants.
No, because, technically the giants and the dragons don't like each other. Like, full stop, period.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's an ancient...
It's a rivalry.
Yeah.
it's the old boomer hatred in them that they just don't get along with other dragons. But yeah,
Just need to get over it. Come on.
get over it. But I think it would be very interesting that, especially if there was something along the lines of like one of their forges was being attacked, and you go in there to get your weapon repaired, and they're like, "Well, we can't because the forges are closed because we're currently under attack by dragons," and then you end up in a dragon versus giant scuffle. I think would be really cool.
Capture us a red dragon to relight the forges.
Correct.
Oh,
That'd be dope.
yeah. I like
Yes.
I think one reason I would want to bring my party to the Fireplane is they're looking for an item, but they have to go to a particular city, and they're gonna have to make a few deals. Because when I think of the Fireplane, like the City of Brass, I see it as a almost industrial,
Fair.
but also they will haggle. They're passionate. They're gonna want their way, and your party's like, no, that's way too much money.
Fuck you.
It's got industrial aspects to it for sure, but it is very decadent as well.
Oh yeah,
Like it's meant to represent like the genie throne, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but like the fire giants too. Like they're very good at their craft. So
Yeah.
they would have their spaces decked out, right?
Mm-hmm.
but I would have them there that they have to try and buy an item.
Oh, yeah.
And try and find, rather than just like find this MacGuffin in this cave or this. No, it's in this city owned by this person. You have to get it, whether you buy it or what.
Earn it or what have you, yeah.
That'd be a cool auction to go to as well, like a magic item auction.
I want to make a fire giant auctioneer now.
Oh boy.
What is one deal that you would feel... what is one deal that you would add to make this plane feel unique and memorable? So I've got... This rarely comes up in my games, but in my head, there's a ranking of fire. Fire is one of those things that not all fire is the same for me. So, for example, you have regular fire, regular flames, and then elemental fire, which burns hotter, and you will need elemental water to put it out. Regular water will turn to steam. Beyond that is hellfire. Hellfire is far worse, and if you get burned by hellfire, even if you're able to pull it out, the burning never stops.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, because it's linked right into the weave and the existence of the multiverse, is Dragonfire. And Dragonfire is the hottest, and so Dragon-forged weapons never dull and things like that. So there are levels of fire, and not all fire is created equal. So I want to stress that when I'm here. If you guys are in a shop and you're looking around and you're trying to figure out what weapons to buy, why is this +1 greatsword 400 gold pieces higher than this +1 greatsword. They're both technically the same. This one was forged with elemental fire and cannot be melted by mortal smiths.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Little things like that, I think, will not impact the mechanics of the game, but very much impact the cool factor and the memorability of
Absolutely.
of these items, these locations.
And you know your players are just going to want to get it.
Oh yeah. I have a couple players that would drool over that.
I thought something along the same lines because I was thinking like Legend of Zelda for a while when thinking of this place, because anyone who's played the game knows that like you have to wear a very specific outfit to be within certain spaces.
Yeah.
So I was going to go like the armor route of you can't go into certain places unless you are wearing a certain type of armor or like protective pieces of like clothing.
Very much Samus from Super Metroid as well.
Yeah, well, because we always talk about the survivability of like the mountaintops in terms of them being super cold, so you have to be wearing like jackets, and you have to have like very specific wear to survive.
Or you've got to have some way to be able to breathe in a plane of water if you're underwater, right?
Right.
Yeah. But
So I want to do that for the Fireplanes in terms of you have to be wearing a certain form of garb, like fire-resistant clothing, to go to specific places. So if you want to go talk to the fire dragon, you best prepared because you're not going to survive there long.
I love the idea of them gearing up and like magically doing something, consuming something to be able to just live there. For everybody eat the fire fruit, and that will have you, be able to exist for 72 hours, right?
Yeah.
So you have a ticking clock.
I
right?
like
But then, of course, they reach in their pocket to pull out the fucking map to be like, so which way are we? And it just bursts into flames. Because the map didn't eat the fire fruit.
How dare it?
Yeah.
Why didn't we drip the juices on it?
We all do love a good dripping juice. Tyler.
Yeah. I think one detail I would love to add to make it memorable is color. If you guys noticed how you can get different colors out of flames based on how the intensity of the heat is, or different metals you add to flames.
Green flame.
Well, yeah, with copper.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely be adding that all over the place in the Fireplane. Like there's different areas are going to represent different colors of the flame. Some are going to be hotter.
Maybe the different districts are different colors because they're made out of different metals.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what my thinking is.
And you'd be like, I'm heading down to the iron district, and that's going to be different.
Or
okay, that's
when you say the city of brass, well, it's only going to be one color because it's brass.
Yeah.
But if you go to other cities, guess what? They're going to have different colors to them.
That's fair. That's cool.
Yeah, I like that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much does this plane interest you? This is up there for me. Like, I'll take a detour. I'll give this an 8. If I don't do it in the campaign, that's fine. We'll do something else. But, like, I'm looking for an excuse to detour into the plane of fire now. That's fun. The City of Brass is a better plot hook than most of the other plot hooks.
I would agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, I really do like it as a location. It's also the most fleshed out, and I believe, but I might be wrong on this. Someone will be typing angrily in the comments. But I do believe that there was a book devoted to the City of Brass in 3.5.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't expect it.
It's my first day.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Let's try to remember.
Yeah, I think there was, although it might have just been like one of the Dungeon magazine or Dragon magazine's issues. Like in my head, it's a soft cover. So
I'm imagining
It might
Nintendo
have been
Power.
yeah. So anyway, scale 1 to 10, Megan.
I'm gonna give it a 9 for my girl Casey because there's fire giants here, and I feel like it would be a good place for a good Giants game for us.
And you know that they're just building up a sweat there too.
Oh,
Like taking the shirt off to work in the
loincloths
forest.
and all, like just.
Squeezing out the clothes, just squeeze out the sweat.
More like the city of ass.
Slash.
Tyler, scale of 1 to 10.
For playability, I want to, like, for interest me, I would want to give it a 7. I like it and everything, but I feel like sometimes it's just overdone. Like, everyone knows it. I want them to experience the other planes as well. But it is very playable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I want to give it a 7.
It's okay. You can say everybody else thinks it's cool, so I don't think it's cool.
And I'm just different, okay?
That's fine.
Okay, we discussed.
Sorry, I forgot you're so sensitive.
He tips his fedora and leaves. Yes.
Milady.
It's in the car.
So, who's got the next one? Or do we want to roll initiative on this?
Up to you guys.
Let's roll initiative.
Sure.
All
Rolling
right.
dice.
I'm going to take the black one because it pisses
How
off Megan.
fucking dare you.
I'll stick with yellow.
Maybe I am a fire sign.
Chaotic as fuck. 11
Okay,
for
I got a
All right,
15.
I got a 3. I'm going to last.
me. I like how it went in order.
Yeah. It literally made no difference.
The gods were like, go with the flow, guys.
So I'm actually going to be covering the plane of Earth. And I was quite pleasantly surprised about how much information that's even provided for these planes at all. Like, even when we had the plane of fire, I expected a lot, but even the other planes, I was pleasantly surprised.
Good.
So if you think of the plane of Earth, really what it symbolizes, or it's meant to kind of do, is that kind of stability. This kind of rigidity and tradition is so heavy here.
I think it might be the first time that someone said rigidity on this podcast. Nobody giggled. We're growing. Oh, never mind. All right.
There it is. I didn't have to do it this time.
Anyways, sorry, Tyler.
It's okay. As you said earlier, Adam, it's opposite of the plane of air.
Mm-hmm.
And not only just in the grand wheel, but everything that it really represents as well. It's completely polar opposite. But I like how 5th edition describes what the plane of Earth looks like. It is essentially mountain ranges, one after another after another. Think of, if you're drawing mountains, you have one triangle, then a smaller triangle on either side. Mm-hmm. This just continues on throughout the entire plane, except for a small spot.
Yeah, there's no foothills here.
There is no foothills. This is continual mountain ranges, and I consider that fun and full of caves. But also, apparently there is air at the lower levels, but the higher you get, realism, you can't breathe. And I imagine this if it was a planet, if in the plane of Earth as a planet, you'd see it poking a whole bunch of like spikes on the top of this, like visual if you're from
like poking out of the atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I get from that, and I like that. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is full of caves, and everywhere, and some of the deepest caves are places like the City of Jewels, and where you have other massive cities. Now, the City of Jewels is where the capital city of the Tao, which is the Earth genies.
Yes.
Essentially. And in mountains and everything, what do you find? Gems and precious metals and all that. And guess what? They love this stuff.
Of course they do.
And they love to... They also love to exploit it. They love to try and sell it, but they want to keep it for themselves. They want to keep any shinies. So they're always digging. They're always trying to find new veins of stuff.
Do they like the precious metals as much as the gems and jewels?
No, they definitely like the gems more. I think it's based on value, though. What is the most valuable?
Sure.
So if you find a precious metal, that's really valuable.
Yeah, if you're gonna get like a vein of mithril, that'll be worth more than
a ruby or something.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool.
But it's really in this particular city, and I imagine the others too, they have alarms that they know when their city is being entered into. Now, this is open space, so this is a cave that your party could explore. You don't necessarily need to dig to get there. Mm-hmm. There's paths within these caves. In fact, it's riddled with paths. So if you want a major labyrinth, have at it.
Yeah, this is one of the 2 planes that is just purely like you could just do tunnel adventures, right? The other one being Pandemonium,
That's
which
true,
is the howling winds through the tunnels. That's
which I find the Earth plane a lot easier to do.
Yeah, that's a lot more forgiving.
Exactly. Now, they're not necessarily nice in the City of Jewels. If you steal anything, it's death. There is no, you're going to jail. No, it's death. Up front. And if you try to try to steal anything from them.
Okay.
As I mentioned before, there's one area that is not mountainous. And that is what you mentioned previously with the Swamp of Oblivion.
Yeah, so
which is
it's
kind
the
of connects.
border. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the bald spot. It's like there's no mountains here, but it is an eternal place where things just sink until something spits it back up. But I love this idea of people throw things into this swamp to get rid of them because it will not come back up, and you can't really go get it because you won't come back up.
Dead body dumping ground.
Yep. Until something just it can resurface. It's possible. It says that things do.
It's so funny, when I think about the plane of Earth, I think about like how everything's solid, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea that the Earth is literally swallowing you up in the
that
plane
is
of mud.
just
that's fun.
crazy.
That wouldn't have occurred to me.
No, it wouldn't to me. Now, obviously, this is connected to the plane of water, which you mentioned, and then
it's the in between.
Yeah, and then the in between for fire is something they call the furnaces. It's essentially that. This is where they do all their forging and smelting. I imagine there's several volcanoes here. I don't think there's just one, but this is the biggest one. Mm-hmm. And the closer you get to this, I think there'll be more volcanoes on this side. Mm-hmm. But things they don't really provide so much in 5th edition in the description they give of the inhabitants. We can find it throughout the 5th edition things that do, like Zorn.
The earth elementals that you're looking for.
Yeah, there's
the Galabdors and
there's a lot of out there.
Shit, yeah.
But in the description that it gives in the DMG, it doesn't give us too much in that. You just gotta search for it.
Are you guys throwing just all the dwarves in here as well?
Oh yeah, dwarves be here.
I wouldn't throw them all in here.
Well, every single
What
one.
about the hill dwarves?
In there. There's hills.
No, there's on mountains.
But there's hills on mountains.
Yeah,
There could be mountainous hills and hilly mountains.
I
There you go.
suppose. Okay,
All
yeah.
same thing. Hill giants I'd put here for funsies.
Okay, fair. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get stone giants and hill giants.
Yeah.
and
Ooh, I'm imagining the stone giants like giant canyon that they have. Like I'm imagining something like that here.
I can imagine that like digging out a mountain.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I find it really fun here with all the different things when I started to look into this. But this is what 5th edition tells us.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started to explore out and what it was like in previous editions. And I would say one of the biggest things that caught my eye is in previous editions, they didn't have it as mountain. In previous editions, it was flat. It was completely flat with like potholes and everything and gas coming out of these potholes from the ground, making it almost you can't breathe because of the poisonous gas that is exuded from the ground.
I could see that transition because a lot of people, when you think mountains, think forges, then you think fire and volcano. So I think to combat that, they would do flat plain craters, like almost moon-like.
Even talking about the plane of mud there, the transitional period, I'm sitting here going, and geysers are going to be there.
Yeah,
and
it's like poisonous grounds.
Yeah.
I
toxic wasteland.
Yeah.
I like the mountain aspect of it, what 5th edition has done, but I like this for small portions of, like, maybe this is the desert, or a desert equivalent.
What's in the valleys between the mountains?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I like both of these, what they've done. And again, in Outside, there's a lot of stuff you can read that they've done on the plane of Earth, but that was the biggest thing that popped out to me.
I also like it because Earth, like you said, it's like it gives you the idea of stability, like that's one of the main themes, right? And of all of the ability checks, it's Constitution.
Oh gosh,
Which is, of course, is the one you're going to want if it's toxic, noxious fumes and shit, right?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, I'm with you. Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty much what we have for the plane of Earth.
Let's grab dice.
Hey,
How
yeah.
dare you keep taking my dice?
I didn't.
I rolled a 5 now.
I rolled a 9.
Well, we're rolling off with 9.
Again?
Yeah, all right. Megan's just destined to go last.
Yeah.
All right.
I
So Tyler, you're going first. What is one reason that you, as a DM, would bring your party to the plane of Earth?
I think one reason I would want is for them to mine. They're looking for a particular precious metal that they need for some sort of MacGuffin that they're making, and they need to find it. Whether they have a druid that can go into an earth elemental, or who knows what. Somehow they have to dig through the plane of Earth and deep to find this and battle against the Tau who are also trying to get it, or whatever earth elemental is trying to get there. That's kind of the idea, and with all the challenges that come with it.
So, not to get too fucking teen drama and CW about it, I'm not going Supernatural or Teen Wolf on this, but I do hate the fact that we don't have like Werewolf Alpha stat blocks. We have Mummy Lords, we have vampires, spellcasters, and like high power. We don't have like lycanthropes are not scary. You need silver to be able to kill a regular one. I really, really like the idea of you needing silver from the elemental plane of Earth to be fashioned into some sort of weapon to be able to kill a werewolf alpha.
Instead of just being classically silver tipped, which is really easy to find.
Yeah.
I like that. Not even just with an alpha. You could easily do it with any creature.
Yeah, but I specifically want to boost up lycanthropes because they're so
Iconic.
underwhelming in 5th edition for how iconic they are.
Yeah.
Right? So that would be my kind of plot hook. If I'm trying to think, why would you need some sort of precious metal and silver to kill a werewolf? And you don't even need silver in 5th edition. You just need to silver helps keep it down, but it's not mandatory to kill them. So I always make it a mandatory for the final kill. Like you can put it down, but it'll come up the next time there's a full moon, right?
Yeah.
So having this happen to an alpha where you cut it and it just heals, right? You don't have the right kind of silver, right? And now here we go. Find a portal off to the plane of Earth. We need to do this. Yeah.
Well, you had to throw the body in the swamp of oblivion.
See, originally in my head, I thought that it would be good to just go get the silver mined on the moon. However, Well, because they're all tied to lunar shit, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Moons.
But then I was thinking that's just going to make them more powerful because the moon helps them. So
That's fair enough.
yeah.
I like that. Well, I would like to make there's definitely a dwarven or like hill giant, rock stone giant mafia that lives here.
Oh.
And that's all I want to build is this mafia that now just dumps bodies in this frickin' swamp. So.
That is fun. And, why am I getting... What's the DC... Tombstone, I think, from DC. I think, yeah. There's a villain in Tombstone. He was dumped into a swamp. And it was a cursed swamp, and he came back up as one of the most toughest villains.
It would be a good villain story. Like,
Yeah.
they were murdered by said group and then dumped in this swamp to never come back.
But he did come back
But he made a silent agreement with some warlock somewhere.
I'm not dead.
I'm not
I'm not
dead.
dead yet.
I'm not dead. My name's Jeff. I don't know why I went there.
No, I like the idea of them having like they just have a portal in whatever other plane that opens up to mud, and it's like, all right, we throw the bodies into the portal, and so you watch one of your player characters get killed, right, and then they turf the body into but we need the body to cast Revivify or True Resurrection, like we got to bring them back, but we need the body. Well, they've turfed it through the portal, so now you're in the plane of mud, and you're like pulling it up out of the sinking mud, and I think that could be a lot of fun. That could be really gross and creepy and.
That's even better.
Especially if you got to fall 60 feet down from the portal to the muck.
Whee!
So everybody takes, what is that, 6d6, but we'll half it because it's mud.
Yeah,
right? So everybody like slurps down.
Swish.
And how do you get back up?
Oh, I would have that sound effect of like when you take like stuff out of a can. Like,
Yeah.
What's one detail that you would add to make this plane feel more unique and memorable?
I think one thing I would want to put in here is I want these precious metals that you find here, or these gems, to be even more luxurious. That you would find on the material. Like, you think those rubies look nice? So wait till you see this. These almost emit a glow to them.
The purity to them, yeah.
It's going to be so pure that you can't even imagine it until you actually see it. And I want to build that up for them and to tempt them with that.
That's fair.
I'm going to have an adventure inside a massive geode. So, like, it is painful to touch any surface in here.
Yeah.
As it is sharp and cutting, and they're...
And the ground is super slippery because it's nice and smooth.
Yeah, right. I think that would be a lot of fun. Like, it's smooth, and you can't stop yourself moving until you reach a wall, and it's a deck save to not get stabbed by the sharp bits coming out of the wall.
That's hilarious.
Right. So, if you want to move in any direction, what direction do you go in? And you just say that one, and you just glide in that direction until you stop because it's smooth.
That's cool.
So, yeah. So, a battle inside a geode, I think, would be fun.
That would be fun.
That would be neat. I would have like an underground tunnel that goes to the Fireplane, and then they do deals and swindlings in terms of the fire giants want the metals to make their precious items and stuff. And in fact, if you go to the Fireplane, you start seeing that a lot of the metals and the beauty, like to your point earlier, the purity of things, it just looks like nicer metals.
Is there a gem attached to each element? Or is it just like color? Like, are rubies fire or no?
So technically you do have gemstones that are attached to your birth sign, which then are in turn attached to...
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, you can only mine these ones in this elemental plane.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. But yeah, no, I would. No, that's what I mean. It's like it would be cool to have like the underground cavern, like tunnel between the ones to have those kinds of united, like trade routes.
It'd be so cool to have like a metal and gem swap meet almost, but it's all connected by like underground rail card and shit. So there's like this hub of like a railroad hub, but it's just mine carts.
Yeah, you get pearls from the water, like the water planes and stuff like that.
Totally shady too.
Yeah,
like completely. Like this is fun.
Yeah,
I like
you
this.
send your strongest warriors down there to go do the trading.
You don't go to the swap meet without expecting to see a dead body.
Yeah, and then the Earth people take it back and throw it in the swamp.
This is the remnants.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll wait for 100 years, it might come back up.
You never know.
So, scale of 1 to 10, how much does this plane interest you, Tyler?
I would go with an 8. After looking into this, I love the versatility of it. The things that you can do here. And, like I said, it's a cave system. It's one of the few labyrinths that you could actually do. That's not constructed by a wizard or anything. Oh, this is natural.
I'm honestly gonna... Okay, I gave Fire an 8, so I'm gonna call this a 7. I like the plane well enough. I can do 90% of what I want to do here in a mountain.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm giving it a solid 4.
Yeah.
You bore me.
How very dare you?
Yeah. You earth elementals are too down to earth.
I am just a big fan of the Galabdor and the Zorn, and like there's some really cool earth elementals that exist there.
Oh yeah.
And I think low-key stone giants are one of the most interesting cultures out of all of the giants.
But because they're not named to be there, you bore me.
Fine. Be that way then.
I just make it that way and make it more interesting for myself.
Okay.
That's just...
So what do you have next?
I'm going to talk about the plane of water.
Okay.
Ooh, very fluid.
Right. So the plane of water description in the DMG starts with the describing water as being essentially the calm that calms the firestorm, basically, and references how steady and smooth water can be, as well as referencing the healing aspects of time and how it can erode anything within its pathways. But then also likes to remind that storms and cloudy weather are also affiliated with that of the waterscape. The plane of water is basically an endless seascape, visually. As always, basically I picture Waterworld in my brain, where the sun rises and sets on the horizontal water line, so they get like a nice reflected, so they do have night and day, but they will always see it rising and falling within the waterscape.
Mm-hmm.
The storms, previously mentioned, are sometimes considered a way of travel to the plains. So you're kind of speaking to traveling between the plains. This is where the storms themselves will open up portals and ships tend to travel through them on accident, which causes these seas to kind of be riddled with folks from many other realms wandering the seascape without hope of returning home.
Fun.
I know.
That's not dark at all,
Such
right?
a great time.
I'm just loving this more and more. Keep going.
I literally wrote this reminds me of Adam's homebrew world where everybody, but just on the water.
Yeah. Just happy random happenstance. Right?
That's what I mean. Like anything can exist here now if you think about it that way, because the storms are constantly going.
Don't you feel bad for the person that swam through the portal by accident?
Whoopsie doodle. I was just out for my morning Olympic swim, you know?
Where am I?
So basically the water planes remind me of that calm that is the puddle, but also the wreckage that is the storm that a storm can cause.
Mm-hmm.
There are underwater worlds, of course, within the coral reefs that are around what is called the Sea of Light. So this is kind of like the light and dark of the waterscape. So this is where you would find a lot of where the water folks live, above and or below water. One being mainly the Merids, who have a castle-like place called the Citadel of 10,000 Pearls. And of course, the Merids are kind of like the water genies.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
They got fish heads.
Yeah, they got fish heads.
Roly-poly fish heads.
But this is the thing. They're described to like be super physically physiqued.
Yeah.
And wear minimal clothing.
Oh, yeah. They're reverse mermaids, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and like where the fire giants just wore loincloths, these ones just wear flimsy vests so that you can see all of their goods.
Oh boy.
Except that most genies in the artwork just are wisps below the waist.
Yeah.
Except for the Ifrit, I think. They have legs.
Yeah.
The other ones don't. So you're not going to get fish dong on this one.
No.
The worm and tackle is not going to be hanging out here.
Sorry guys, sorry.
Yeah, you're not going to have the fish bait.
Yeah.
Sad.
But the Citadel of moving on. The Citadel of 10,000 Pearls.
I was working on more metaphors.
No, we're done.
All right,
We're done with your metaphors.
Okay.
It's simply described as a large castle that's formed through the coral and then covered in pearls. And that's why I was thinking immediately when we were talking about the different places having different types of metals and pearls and gems, pearls would come from the water plane.
Makes sense.
On the flip side, where no sunlight touches, these are considered to be the darkened depths, which is where things like krakens and other scary monsters would like to live.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Because basically everything the light touches is good, and where there is no sun, the shadows is gross. Is basically the easiest way to describe it.
So there are a surprising number of monsters in all the monster stat blocks. A surprising number of them that are just like, hey, it's vaguely aquatic. Plane of water.
Yeah.
And like it's not like it is for the plane of earth where it's like, oh, there's Darrow, there's dwarves. No, there's no mention of that shit. But like
Plane of water.
But yeah, Marrow and Tritons and plane of water.
All of them exist here.
Yeah.
The small amounts of dry land that do exist are inhabited and protected by sea-dwelling folk, but those few that need to breathe on land do chumps lash together rafts and other flotation devices together to create large floating cities. So basically, once again, this is Waterworld.
Yes.
Do they drink their own pee? Because that's the detail that everyone's asking for.
I'm gonna assume
Only through a
yes.
filtration system.
We don't kink shame on this podcast?
Yeah, it's full of nutrients. And moving on. One area that is constantly under siege of storm is called the Isle of Dread. And due to the stormage, a lot of folks find themselves wrecked on this island, or of course, many folks traveling through portals end up here. So this is kind of like the hub of random shit that just arrived here. And then to mention, we did talk about the swamps that brush up against the Earthplanes already, so I won't get too much far into that. But I will talk a little bit more about the Sea of Ice, which is what brushes up against the plane of air. Yeah. Called the Frostfell. So this place is basically just inhabited by a bunch of large icebergs. And this would be a land of where only survivalists and other things that can survive here would exist. It's a hellscape of ice and storm.
Yeah.
I could definitely see like a frost giant, definitely being
100%.
on glaciers.
Yeah. So this would be my frost giant location for sure.
Yeah, your white dragons, even like your mammoths and stuff, are going to be here.
Yeah.
As well, so.
And your polar bears, if you want to put them in there, you know.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of everything in there if you want.
Oh, it's so cute.
Right.
It makes you want to cry.
But yeah. But as a whole, that is the Waterplane.
All right.
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's grab dice. I left it for you this time.
Excellent.
Oh, what do I get red?
And it got knocked into a 20. Look at that. How fantastic.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, friendo.
Are we each answering first for the one that we're doing?
That seems to be the trend right now. Yeah.
All right, Megan. What is one reason that you, as a DM, would bring your party to the plane of water?
Honestly, this would be an by accident kind of situation. I feel like if you want to do a sidebar episode and you're just doing a water-ish campaign, or they're in an area where it's constantly storming, just throw in a storm, move them here, and then you can start adventuring and seeing different types of folks, and play a water campaign for a small period of time. I find doing water campaigns for extended times is hard and annoying and frustrating because of doing boat travel, water travel, survival, all that added into it is kind of difficult for me as a DM.
Yeah.
So this would be you ended up here on accident, and your goal is to get yourself out of there. But this gives you the opportunity to introduce the kinds of water folk you might run into, fight a kraken for funsies, and do all that kind of fun stuff for a short period of time.
We have different kinds of funsies.
Well, I have fought many a kraken because of you.
I know. Was it fun?
It was a hoot. Sharks? You remember the shark episode?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
That was dope.
I did have a lot of fun with the sharks.
The sharks were really cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't even know if I want to know what's going on.
well, we did a water campaign for a short period of time.
It was a long period of time. We spent 2 years essentially on rivers that would take over a day to traverse from side to side. So there and a series of them that would span the entire map.
Yeah.
So that was the way to travel. And so we got pirate friends,
Yep.
and I DM'd us on ships, and then every so often you guys would get off and you'd traverse for a while, and you'd meet up with your ship again somewhere else and move on. So we did a lot of ships. We did a lot of like stuff floating in the water, a lot of sharks and water elementals and
it was
ship
fun
combat
for a short period of time.
Yeah, I had to keep breaking it up because it was getting monotonous doing it over and over.
So that's what I mean is I would make this an on accident. You end up here just for a little bit of a fun little water episode or two, and then you find your way home.
That is completely fair.
Yeah.
What about you, Tyler?
I love the idea. I love Waterworld. Just say that right there. I
love Waterworld.
It's so, and I would want to create a Waterworld campaign, but I would want to make it a small campaign.
Yeah.
Like you said, like only for up to from level 5 to level 10 or something like that. I would want to make a Waterworld campaign. You have to make your boat. You have to you have to find what's going on. You have things happening to you. You're just trying to survive.
The weapons become so different when you are scavenging for like small ship combat and stuff. Yeah. I if I could be honest, the thing that I'm going to do here is when my party is full of absolute morons that sink their ship somehow. And it is going to be a TPK. We are out in the middle of nowhere. There is no, the ship goes down. This is the Titanic. You guys done fucked up. You'll wake up on a shore surrounded by a bunch of debris. Half of the NPCs are missing, but half of them are there with you. You can kind of piece together a little bit for survival, and you have to live on this island for a little while. But all of the indicators of the world that you've lived in aren't there anymore. You are on like a distant shore. It almost feel like purgatory. And it turns out that it's the plane of water, right? And there would be someone else that comes by and is like, how have you been here? What has happened? And because you guys fucked up and you TPK'd, your ship is gone. And we're going to spend the next 6 to 8 sessions getting back to like the regular like the material plane.
Yeah.
So
That's fair.
find out which portal you came through and go back through that one. But in order to do that, you need a ship that's willing to leave and that can leave. So like you finish off by like sailing into the storm. You know what I mean? So
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's one detail that you would add to make the plane feel unique and memorable?
A water taxi system. And this is just for me to make it a lot easier to play within. So that if you can't find yourself a big ship, you do have to like trades and do money trades or jewels and gem trades, or again, Waterworld-esque, trade your land-like items. Like
your jar of soil.
Your jar of soil, your forks and spoons, like things of the mainland that they just don't have
here. You can't have forges on wooden ships.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
So like if they need weapons, they need armor, like all of those things, they're going to take them for trade. And you're going to learn really quickly that it's those kinds of things that they'll want. And then you just get access to using this water taxi system to get you to where you need to go. So if you can't, again, finding a very large ship that's going to take you where you want to go is going to be difficult. But there will be a water taxi system that will cause a resource issue if you continue to have to trade your stuff to use. So it would be beneficial to put the effort into finding a large ship, but I would find it fun to give them that kind of thing in the in-between so they can actually travel around just fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would want to create rather than a taxi system, a submersible system.
Like one of those like air bubble tubes?
Yeah, I want to create something that they can go down into like these reefs to actually visit the people there, or even to go further into the deep dark. Now, that's at their own peril, obviously. But it's not always easy to say, okay, here's a ring of water breathing.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to just give them those items. I want to say, okay, you're going to have to find a way to get down there. Oh, hey, there's these things that you can rent. But if you go past your rent of how long you have it, it only lasts for 12 hours. And I want to create that kind of system where they can go underwater easily, but they have to at a risk.
There's a risk, yeah. Neat.
I want to play with the fact that I don't know if it's saltwater or freshwater.
I was thinking that too, yeah.
So the idea is that you could see the water and there would be like a deep, dark blue part of it, like almost a grayish blue tinge to it, with veins and streaks and pools of a lighter, like aquamarine feel. And the aquamarine is freshwater, and the gray, the bluish gray is your saltwater. And they're actually mixing and flowing, but like one will displace the other as like you go by. It'll push the water, so it's ever moving these ways. And so there will be creatures that can only exist in one or the other who will get trapped there. Like, hey, we're stuck in like an island of fresh water surrounded by salt water. Can somebody come bring some freshwater passageways to us? Just guide the freshwater currents in this direction. And so you would have all sorts of water genasi and tritons and people that are like magical humanoids that are water-based. The merfolk, the sea elves, who would be like sculpting where the fresh water goes.
I imagine like the glacier water, like close to the glaciers, would be where some of that clean water comes from. And then but it's a hard place to traverse, so you have to have these very specific water folk that either take you there or help you out to get that kind of a resource. Yeah,
and then over on the other side by the earth would be salt, which makes a certain amount of sense as well.
That makes sense.
Now I do have a question though. In the plane of water, if you use create water, the spell, is it going to be salt or fresh?
Create water is believe
it's drinkable.
It's drinkable. It's potable water. So,
well, actually, here's a good question. Any spells that you cast in any of these planes, do you think they're going to be flavored to whatever plane you're on?
I am absolutely going to add 1d6 damage if you're on the appropriate plane, whether it's...
if you're doing an elemental damage spell.
Or if it's gust, it's going to blow 10 miles faster than otherwise.
Yeah, if you're on the airplane or whatever.
Right. So,
that makes sense.
So, the elemental spells, absolutely. And I will also make them fizzle. If you are casting Fireball underwater, you get fewer d6, right? So, you'll still blow it up, but your Sacred Flame is not going to light shit on fire, right, in the plane of water. So, scale of 1 to 10, Megan.
I would give this one, because I want to, so I would give it like a solid 9 because I want to play in like the water planes because I just think they're really neat. However, I know how frustrated I would be playing in them, so I'm going to like drop that down to like a 6. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it would be super neat to like, I would have more fun investigating it if it was in a TV show or I was reading a book, right? Like having the agency of trying to fuck with it, it could be frustrating and annoying.
No, fair. I want to say 4 just to screw with you, Megan, because you said 4 for mine, but
you
no.
bitch.
How dare I? No, I actually will give it an 8 though, because I love this idea of just water travel. I did a lot of Star Wars, so I did a lot of ship combat and ship travel, so I love that idea, and I love that idea for here as well.
It's true.
I'm going to give it a solid 8 because it has more plot hooks. You have more reasons to be here than you do the other ones.
It's very easy to get here.
And it's very easy to come up with just about anything here. This is the most populous of all of the planes that we've talked about. There's more just random items. You're going to have more little civilizations and pockets of people popping up here and there.
Well, because you're going to have sunken ships. You're going to have treasure from, like, far realms and far lands. Right? So
far planes, even.
Yeah.
And ancient stuff, like artifacts that have gone missing for thousands of years, were here, and we just didn't know, right? So there's all sorts of plot hooks here. I think you're right. It could be annoying being trapped on ships because it's limiting.
Correct.
Right. However, the islands, or it's a different location and
the makeshift raft cities, I would make sure I had them aplenty.
Yeah, like,
and that's why I say water taxi system. I am in.
Okay. Just for you, Megan, we'll do that.
Bless.
And you could cut down this one specifically. I feel like you could cut down on random encounters because there will be known waterways, charted, mapped areas to go where these are safe waters, and so your random encounters are going to be: you pass a merchant ship, they wave at you.
Hi.
The hot person on the other ship flashes you, and you're like, yeah, on the way by, right? And so, like, it's
I got 2. How did you do?
And like that would be your random encounter as opposed to roll initiative. You hear a howl or there's sparks going off in the plane of fire. Go investigate this.
You could see sparks on the top of a ship too, but
different.
Different. So that did we get a number? Yeah, we got your number, Tyler.
We're numbered.
So that brings us to the final plane, which is the plane of air. So we're going to talk about the plane devoted to movement, animation, inspiration, life, change, progress, as the air blows away fogginess and stuffiness and clears people's minds. The plane of air is simply wide open air, with gusts, gales, bursts, and breezes of varying degrees blowing through the space and creating storms and clouds and drafts in all directions. At least that's all it used to be. Long ago, beyond the memory of most folks, the plane of Earth tried to invade, and while the earthen forces were driven back, floating islands of earth and stone remained. And now they're covered with greenery and life, and some are even large enough to support cities and fortresses. So it's very much like the plane of water with these islands, only it's 3-dimensional.
You're welcome.
So, but what you can expect is the unexpected here, because surging thunderstorms and obscuring clouds rapidly accumulate and dissipate without warning, and navigation can be difficult as the rushing air pushes and turns even the most experienced and skilled explorers along the web of shifting airstreams and windy currents that most people cannot even see. The temperature is mostly pleasant and mild until you get near either of the 2 neighboring planes, where it heats up to become scorching by the plane of fire, or it cools down to become frigid and full of sleet and hail near the plane of water. So far, what I've described is the majority of the habitable part of the plane of air, but locals call this expanse the Labyrinth of Winds, because getting to the next floating island will likely take a different amount of time and an entirely different route depending on the ever-shifting winds. Some of the more dependable routes, though, can hold secrets like an unknown path to a powerful citadel or a hidden society that you can only reach by flying a certain way. One such realm is the legendary realm of Aqua. Not Aqua, Aka.
How do you spell that?
A-A-Q-A.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep. Which houses the Wind Dukes of Aka and their silvery spires and lush green gardens. This is where many of the most disciplined and pure of heart Aarakocra live, and trained to support law and good, and they are devoted to finding the Rod of 7 Parts. There's also a species called the Vati, but they're mostly extinct, and the survivors are considered to be either powerful air elementals or celestial messengers of Bahamut. There are more statues of them than there are actual, like, physical witnesses of their existence. So, over by the great conflagration, because I needed to say it again,
Of course.
which is the space between the planes of air and fire. The air is dry and hot, and it keeps the floating motes of Earth swept clean. This is where you're likely to find the homes of gargoyle attackers and other remnants of the earthen forces that just never left. This space is called the Sirocco Straits and is the origin point of most of the raids against Akka and the other habitable parts of the plane of air. So, not you're welcome. You guys are still fucking with us. You're the bad guys here, Tyler.
Sorry.
I mentioned the Great Conflagration, again, which is a pillar of pure raging heat and flames, and this oftentimes is referred to as the Plane of Ash, where the earthen moats and floating islands are hidden by walls of heat, raging flames, and blinding ashen storms. That's what makes it a perfect place for all of the outlaws, fugitives, and scoundrels to hide on the border of the Plane of Air.
Now, you said that it keeps things clean?
No, it keeps no vegetation will grow. It sweeps them clean with a hot, scorching air.
Okay, so not prestidigitation clean.
No. Just like volcanic rock swept clean, right?
Oh.
It's just smoother, right? So on the opposite side of the plane of air lies the Frostfell, which you talked about, Megan.
Yeah.
Yay.
And this is the plane of ice that holds the plane of water at bay. As you head toward it, you must first enter the Mistral Reach, which is a frigid region of snow and ice in the air, and all of the little floating motes here are like snowballs that you're going to have to, like if you land on it, it might not even be solid rock. It could just be floating chunks of ice. So
And jump from one to another, to another, to another.
Whee.
and that's what we have for the plane of air.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot for it. So once again, let's roll initiative.
Let's do it. And now I got knocked to a 2.
Oh.
You.
Yeah, I got knocked to a 3.
And I'm talking to myself, so we're keeping it going.
It's a good theme that we have going on.
All right, so the reason that a DM would bring your party to the plane of water, I'm looking for the Aarakocra, and I desperately need to find the Rod of Seven Parts. I love the Rod of Seven Parts. Well, I've included it in the last campaign that Megan played in, and it was a blast putting it together, making it like power up as it goes. But the Aarakocra are specifically designed to go after this thing in the name of law and good. So that's my plot hook right there. We need to talk to them to find the clues to the next whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So
I would want to bring my party here. They have to try and find a MacGuffin on each of these islands. I want to play with the idea of traversing between these islands and how the islands are going to be quite drastically different from another. Even though it is in the plane of air, these islands are going to be quite different.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to have to traverse and find something like the Rod of Seven Parts or something of that sort. They have to find an item to create a piece of armor that's going to be able to get their big bad evil guy, protect him.
I kind of went like a different route in terms of this place for me, when we rules is written read about it, feels way more protected than the other ones.
yes, the standoff is going to be hard to get through this.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get to this plane, get into this plane. There's less reasons why your group would be here naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I feel like there's something here that is being protected, such as an ancient magic or an ancient ruin or some history to your family line that has long disappeared to history and time. And your goal is to actually get here because it's so protected. And you have to find different ways to get across the plane. So maybe your goal is you end up in the Waterplane because it's the easiest one to get to. And then now you know you have to cross over the Frostfell to get into it. Mm-hmm. So your goal is to get here, and the campaign is getting there.
Yeah.
So you know exactly where you're going, you know what you're looking for, you know what temple you need to find, where the magic is stored or what have you. But the goal is, the hardship is getting on this plane.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, I would want to bring them there because it's so hard to get to. But the fun as a DM would be throwing shit at them because it's so hard to cross.
It's an obstacle course to get through here. Yeah.
Otherwise, you go through the earth or through the mountains or what have you, you're coming in contact with all these weird creatures that just have stayed here for an existence of time. So you don't know what you're going to face by going through these tunnels.
Yeah.
You end up in the water plains. You have to cross the Frostfell, which means frost giants or other like frozen. You have to deal with, survivalist stuff, right?
I like the idea of going from like the plane of fire to the plane of air, where when it's time to cross over, there's just this wall of ash in front of you. Mm-hmm. But you can see the embers flying upwards, right? From through it. And then you have to grab like almost like a wingsuit, like a flying squirrel suit, in order to actually traverse through this, to let the vents pull you up into the air.
Yeah.
And then good luck navigating. You've got to just hope you're heading in the right direction to get to the other side. And this is a full plane. Like, you could be traveling like this for days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. This is definitely like hang glider stuff or
parachutes.
Yeah, exactly. You have something that they can float on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that the ships that would traverse from fire to air would be really interestingly designed.
Those would be interesting.
Yeah.
So speaking of, what's one detail you would add to make this plane feel more unique and memorable? I said what's one detail. I have two, because I really like the idea of them chaining together the different islands to keep them in close proximity, and then building like platforms along these massive chains as like rest stops, as you've got to like climb and traverse these chains to the next platform. And now imagine doing a battle as like you're being attacked as you're going from one of these floating islands to another one.
Mm-hmm.
And you got some of your players are on platforms shooting, others are trying to actively climb. You're escorting and guarding as wyverns and flying creatures are attacking you from all sides. I think it would be really cool and memorable.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I would point out is I think someone's great ancestor that was lost, because that always happens in every campaign. My great uncle disappeared, was never heard. He used to be an adventurer. You find out that he was in a plane of air, and then he became one of the forever falling, where he missed a step and he plummeted and nobody could get to him in time, and he is just falling until he starves to death.
How fun.
That is a dark way of becoming thoroughly lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're not going to be recovered.
Yeah.
So
It's frightening.
I think one of the fun things I would want to do is play with air currents here.
yeah.
I would want it to, using a 3-dimensional system type of thing, even if they're on land, this is the plane of air. You're not always just going to have light breezes of air. No, you're going to have things that can sweep you off your feet here. If you do fall off an island, for example, if you fall down, suddenly you have an air current that pushes you in a completely different direction.
Yeah. Flying things would have a hard time going in a very straight line.
Unless you are native to this plane,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to fly in this easily.
You have to go talk to the diviner who's going to tell you when is the appropriate time to...
Yeah.
They call him the weatherman.
And he's only right about 7% of the time.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm 100% right 7% of the time. That's hilarious.
Well, we're expecting high lows coming in from the north. So.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like the idea of the breezes, but for me, it is the debris. The debris.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's not a matter of how fast the wind is blowing, it's what
the
wind is blowing.
in the wind. And for me, people who know me in real life know that I have a very innate fear of the wind, which is strange because I am an air sign. But I hate wind. Wind is my most feared element.
Why?
Air is the one element that makes every other element more scary. Water. Like tsunamis, storms, tornadoes, XYZ.
Yeah. Fire.
Fire.
Yeah.
It fuels fires.
Yeah.
And then, okay, what is it?
Earth.
Yeah, so that one is like debris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything is more a sandstorm, what have you. Air is the one element that makes every other element more frightening. And that was something that I would definitely bring into this. You light a fire, it gets out of control. You are within a storm, you are getting razor blades to the face from the rains. If you are standing in just like a plane that's filled with rocks and stuff, you're getting sand and shit kicked up in your eyes.
Yeah.
Like, there's always going to be an elemental issue because it is windy here.
And then suddenly it's not.
Yeah.
And that's so scary.
That's
Like,
scary.
what does
The
that
calm
mean?
and silence of like the wind stopping.
Yeah.
It's like the eye of the storm.
Correct.
What's going on?
Right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, scale of 1 to 10, how much does this plane interest you? About as much as the Earth one does for me. It's a 6 for me. Like, there's stuff to do here, but it's like the same 2 or 3 things, right? Like, I'm just island hopping the way I would in the plane of water, but it's different, right? Like, mechanically, it's kind of the same. So, it's the flavor that's different. And there's fewer things to be found just floating about. I do love the idea of there just being like leaves and paper and stuff just always blowing around. But anything with any sort of substantial weight falls forever.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, a 6. I could come here, spend a couple of decent sessions, and then move on. I'm not going to put a significant chunk of a campaign in this.
I would agree. I'm more leaning on a 6 as well. For the same reasons, but also it's hard to get here.
Mm-hmm.
it would be hard to bring my players here naturally. There would have to be some catastrophic event that's going to put them in the plane of air here.
The other thing that we kind of skipped over was the bandits and outlaws that are hiding in the plane of ash.
Yeah.
Right, there's a lot of plot hooks to be done.
There is,
right?
yeah.
You have all sorts of fugitives and shit in there, so
Yeah.
like...
Yeah, there's things that can definitely be done, but I don't want to spend too long here because it's going to get old pretty quick.
Yeah. I like how the idea that the Mad Max group is in the plane of air and not the plane of earth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so but then I would definitely play up the fact that they use wind for traveling as like the bandits that they are and so on and so forth. But so that makes sense to me. But for me, I would give it a little bit more. I would give it a 7. I hate the wind and I hate how it acts, but I think that it would be fun to, again, re-give that fear to other people. The fact that the wind is not, and air is not as flighty and calm as you think it would be.
All right. Well, before we close up this episode, let's see what our glorious info break has to say.
If you've been inspired by the conversation in this episode, please feel free to reach out and share your creativity and ideas with us and the rest of the community. You can reach us on Facebook and Instagram, or on our subreddit r/itsamimic. Also, if you're feeling particularly generous, please follow and subscribe and leave us positive reviews, likes and comments. Engagement like that help us pop up on search engines and keep this show running.
Now, we've mentioned creatures that prefer to make their homes in the elemental planes, but you should remember that there are a great many birds and animals and beasts and fishes that live in elements that border the material plane. Are you looking for a prawn the size of a house, or a lion with a mane of pure flames, a group of butterflies with razor-sharp wings, or a sentient naked mole rat with a love for poetry? All of these things can be found here if you actually want to flesh it out with more beasts and creatures than just the handful of elementals and giants and whatnot that we've mentioned. The elemental planes are home to all manner of beings, as long as they are tied to the base nature of the, like the metaphor behind the plane itself. So, we've mentioned giants, elementals, genies, Zorn, Myrmidon, Chwinga. There are fiery lizard men. There are spiders that are connected to a lot of the different elements. There are hulks from Bigby's Glory of the Giants, which are all tied to the elements as well. We have the elemental tempests and strongly themed fae, all the way to like the bizarre monstrosities that amplify a specific kind of the elements themselves. There are a lot of different denizens, but the one that I want to talk about right now is called the Mephits. Do you guys know Mephits? Because I fucking love Mephits.
We talked about Mephits in a few episodes. Everyone's here and there. Yeah.
I've used them in campaigns.
You guys ran up against dust Mephits that had the ability to put you guys to sleep.
Yeah.
I added that. That's not standard. But...
Yeah.
So, Mephits are little imp-like creatures that embody the concept of two elemental ideologies merging together. A lot of them exist on the small planes between the inner planes, but a great number have mysteriously manifested on the material plane as well. They're all CR 1/4 to 1/2, so they exist in a capacity between annoyance and fodder. But I love them because they all have one really annoying thing for tier 1 parties to have to contend with, and that is a death burst.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there are 6 different kinds: dust, ice, magma, mud, smoke, and steam. And there are 6 because they blend 2 elements together, right? The idea here is that even though we only have 4 crossroads, because earth and air and fire and water don't mix, for Mephits it doesn't matter, they do.
Yeah.
So dust Mephits are air and earth combined, and they have a blinding breath cone attack and a blinding death burst. Ice Mephits are water and air, and they can blend in perfectly with shards of ice. They've got a frost breath that does 2d4 cold damage, and a death burst that does cold damage as well. Magma Mephits are earth and fire. Obviously, they can blend into pools of magma, hit you with 2d6 fire breath, or blow up with a death burst that will do damage to adjacent creatures. Mud Mephits are earth and water, and they can camouflage themselves perfectly within mud. They're going to be all over that plane of ooze.
Oh, yeah.
And I like the idea, too, of like you dump a body in there, and then suddenly like 3 mud Mephits just come up out of the mud, grab them, and drag them down
Yes.
into it.
Yeah.
So their death burst and their breath weapon both coat the target in mud and restrain them, which is really gross. Smoke Mephits are fire and air. They have a death burst and a breath weapon that are both going to blind players, but they can also cast dancing lights. And
okay, yeah.
finally, Steam Mephits are water and fire, and they are essentially slightly less effective magma Mephits who can cast blur innately once a day. So they're harder to hit. Yeah. Oh, and once per day, every Mephit has a 25% chance of summoning 1d4 other similar Mephits.
Amazing.
I like that it's similar Mephits. It's not the exact one.
You can do a different blend.
You can't grab a magma Mephit from a dust Mephit.
No.
They have to grab other dust Mephits, but they're...
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
as you can imagine, if you get lucky rolls and you're consistently rolling within that 25%, which I mean, just roll a d4 and make it on a 4, they summon them. But if you roll lots of 4s and then you keep rolling 4s to see how many you get, you can go from 1 Mephit to 277 in just 4 turns.
Yup.
And within 6 turns, it's 36 seconds, you can get up to 4.3 billion Mephits.
Amazing.
So
the math checks out, and I didn't do the math, but I believe
that does make sense. I was doing the math quickly in my head. I'm like,
this gets wild fucking quickly.
That's
right?
hilarious.
So I tend to, that is a variant rule, and I tend to just like hold that back.
It's a controlled number.
Yeah, or I just assume that, hey, it can summon some of them, but only half of them can summon more.
Yeah.
And then, so anyway, I love Mephits. What are your guys' opinions on them?
I like Mephits. I think they're cute. Anything that's elementally focused, though, I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I like using Mephits for tier 1 play. I think they're great for getting, especially even level 1, level 2. It gets my players into the idea of combat.
My dust Mephits fuck you guys up at level 1.
They did fuck us up at level 1. But I also feel like it's a good way to introduce, like, because sometimes players have those elemental, like, resistances and what have you that never really come into play that often.
No.
Mephits are a good way to introduce that.
And it's something different than bandits.
Yeah.
It's something different than your standard, oh, you've gone against these wolves now. No, this is something different.
And like looking across and seeing like, oh, it looks like an imp. It even has wings, but it seems to be covered in ice.
Breathes fire.
If your players have never seen this before, it's going to make them stop and go, what the fuck are we dealing with here? Yeah. And they will be suspicious of other things like this.
Yeah.
I also like them for tier 2 play because they all have death bursts.
Yeah.
So these are great little fuck you creatures that you almost want to not even kill because they're going to put them right outside the door of the next thing that's going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
So having to go in blinded, or you just took a bunch of damage, or half the party's restrained in mud as those final doors kick open and the boss...
Now, I want to get your opinion on this. With Mephits, are they immune to other Mephits exploding? Or are they going to take damage?
Yeah. A dust Mephit... You're not going to find a dust Mephit and a magma Mephit beside each other.
No.
Unless you're in some sort of, like, laboratory for a wizard, right? Like,
but is a dust Mephit immune to another dust Mephit's burst?
Absolutely it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
because you could essentially have... If it wasn't, they would all be exploding at once. Once one explodes, it's going to trigger the next.
Then a nice little mind process.
I don't think that... I don't know off the top of my head, but I don't think that you're going to... They have just slightly too many hit points compared to their death burst. But not enough. Like a player might be able to get a 2-hit kill in on them, right? So you'd need them to take a bunch of damage
beforehand to set something like that off. Yeah.
But if you wanted to play it, so that's just my opinion. There's nothing in the rules. If you wanted to have because it does say any adjacent creature.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. So it could, in theory, you could just line magma Mephits around them.
Well, that's what I was
light to the fuse.
Well, the thing is, I would almost want to do that and have the players like attacking different ones, and once you kill one, well, the ones that are already quite low, they're going to blow up too. The other ones not.
Yeah.
But only the ones that they have been attacking if they haven't killed them.
That's fair. Explosions.
Always fun.
Anyway, that's all for this part of our discussion on Elemental Planes in D&D 5th edition. Please take a second to engage with a like, follow, comment, and review to help push our engagement. And don't forget to subscribe to find future inspirations for your campaigns.
If you'd like to support us, we have a store with some merch and a donate button on our website. It's mimic.com, as well as a Patreon. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and most other podcast apps. Thanks for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're gonna get.
This has been an It's a Mimic production. Please check the show notes for this episode to see links, time codes, and credits, and don't forget to reach out and share your own inspirations.
Testing.
This is my podcast
Check.
voice.
Yep.
Good enough.
Yay.
I accept. I'm going to talk quieter now. Just a bit slow. I'll lean in. Here we go.
Okay. That hurts, Adam.
Away from me is the
Okay.
point. Yeah.
I see how it is.
So I want to be entirely clear. This is technically episode 283 that is now episode 285.
The planes.
Okay.
Yes, I had to
Like
do a
the
reshuffle
Fireplane,
because this was
Earthplane.
supposed to come out like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, good. Because I was like, I went to go do the notes, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I did notes for this episode, but I couldn't find notes for 285. So I started to panic, and I'm like, oh, it's because my old notes are on 283.
Which, and just to be clear, now that you've got me panicked, which planes did everybody do?
I did the Waterplane.
I did Earth.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I changed it twice.
Did you?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, as fairly recently too, but I think I swapped you and me on the water and air.
Okay, because I think I do remember looking at doing water before. And then
Yeah, no, sorry, yeah. It was earth and air. Because I'm like, there's more to do with earth than there is with air anyway.
Amazing. Okay. All right, my goal is to be out of here just after 8 o'clock. I told Elwyn I'd meet her up at 8:30. So.
Nice.
Well, hopefully we can
Let's
do
bang
it
it
in
out.
like an hour and a half.
Well, if we go over, I'm not. I gave myself some room, but you know.
Also, I apologize in advance for being a mess because I'm operating on 2 hours of sleep.
Why are you have 2 hours of sleep, Adam?
The podcast needs to get edited at some point.
Fair enough.
So
Steve.
I've given him a mission. He's on shit right now.
Okay.
So everybody is.
I'm glad. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pull up my notes because I didn't do that because it's my first day.
how dare you?
I realize I'm also wearing a Hellfire shirt today.
Well, I mean, yeah, that yes. And I realize that I am literally a dwarf because I live underground and I have a beard. So Earth is the
That works.
yeah.
Here
And
we are.
Tyler only drinks water. See, we've
Yeah,
come-
there you go.
Oh, my full circle.
Yeah.
And I only drink fire water. So Adam's like, I drink dirt.
I'm just a dirty person.
Ew.
Okay, see you next time.